In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast, we are going to talk about our favorite sleepers. 3 players that are not getting a lot of draft love right now, but we think that's going to change in the very near future. So stay tuned to find out 3 of our favorite under-the-radar prospects in this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast. Shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, the director of scouting for NBA Big Board. And once again, like I said, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Thank you for the support. We are, in my opinion, I may be a little bit biased, but we are your source for NBA draft content 5 days out of the week. And actually, I want to say something. Happy birthday to my brother James. 39 years old today. Happy birthday, brother. It's good to have you on the show. And this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. It is the easiest and the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. It has to be in lowercase, but /LockedOnNBA. And you can get a deposit match up to $100. All right. 3 sleeper prospects that not a lot of people are talking about. The first prospect, we talked about him briefly in our mock draft 1.0.
Right.
We received, it's weird, human nature. If 1,000 people tell you you're doing great, and then 2 people have something negative to say, it's kind of easy to remember the negatives more than the positives. I just think that's weird, human nature. And in this case, there were some people that thought you were trolling. They thought you were being crazy, talking about Hansen Yang as a draft pick. And I like Hansen. You like Hansen. We've talked about him since this summer. I'll let you go first. Why is Hansen Yang a projected, in your opinion, draft pick?
Well, when you look at the film, Raf, you see he has game on the block. And it's legit game on the block. It's not what a lot of the bigs that we are talking about, they project to play on the perimeter or above the rim. Whereas Hansen, he has game on the block. Give him the ball, left block, right block, he's got moves for days. Drop steps, up and unders. And it's like if you look at, and I'm not comparing him to them, but the post players that you can play through in the NBA today, Jokic, Embiid, Sengun, Sabonis, Jonas Valanciunas. Those are guys you can give the ball to on the box. And that part of the NBA is still, it's not what it used to be, but it's still needed.
Yeah, I like him a lot. He's skilled. He's highly skilled. If you go on my Twitter page, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it, Barlowe500. I can't remember the exact day, but if you scroll down, I posted a highlight video from Hansen Yang. And if you look closely in that video, you'll see a couple guys that are really highly touted, projected first-round picks that he didn't have any problems with.
No issues.
He was too strong for Alex Sarr. Same thing for Ethan Almanza. And he's only 18 years old, but he's like your throwback low post present. He's physical, like you said, left block, right block, touch. His footwork and patience on the block is what really impressed me. He's got the Kevin McHale head fake, shoulder fake game. Like I said, good touch. He can mix it up with power, finesse. And when you look at him, you see he's 7 foot. I don't know the exact weight, but I'm assuming he's 7 foot. I'd say 280, but he moves well. There's a couple plays that really impressed me where they gave him the ball 30 feet away from the rim. A lot of people are trying to compare him to Zach Edey. I think that's a lazy comparison in a sense.
I think he has more.
He's more agile.
He's more agile.
More
mobile. You can give him the ball on. He can make moves from the perimeter in like the draw handoff spot. And in transition. He runs. Like one of my knocks on Edey is you see him get the rebound and he's just slowly walking up the court. I agree.
But no, I think Yang is going to be a sleeper. Only 18 years old, and if he were in the States, and I know China is so far away, and it's way under the radar as far as prospects. I mean, they haven't really produced a lot of guys, but it's not a place where you think it's a hotbed for talent. I honestly think if Hansen Yang, or is it Wang?
Yang. It's Yang.
I always get it mixed up right when I'm talking.
We getting it right.
If he were in the United States as an 18-year-old, he'd probably be a senior in high school. I think he'd be one of the best high school players in the country. He's not a gimmick. Like, he's not just your big that's towering over guys, and he doesn't have skills. Like, he's very skilled, but also what makes him a little bit different is he's got some grit, some toughness to him. I seen him like score on somebody. Didn't he like tell somebody they were too little?
Yeah, I saw him head tap. He dunked on somebody in the under 18s, excuse me. Like, yeah, he looks like a different dude. And like to your point, Ralph, I believe his name is Eric Moreland. He's out there,
former NBA player.
He's going at Eric Moreland out there in China.
I saw a play where he went at Thon Maker, played bully ball, scored on him. Again, these aren't current NBA players that have some NBA experience, but these aren't guys that aren't good. At one point, these two players that we're talking about,
Don was a lottery pick.
He didn't deserve to be, but these are two guys that were at one point were in the top 450 players in the world, and then he didn't have any issues against Alex Sarr, who I think is going to be the #1 pick. So I think Hansen, if he were in the States or even playing college ball, I think he'd have a little bit more buzz. But we haven't even talked about what could be his greatest asset, and that is his passing. He is a phenomenal passer at 7'1". I know Ade, Mara got the hype for being such a gifted passer, and it's not a knock on Mara, but I would take Hansen over Mara any day of the week.
I agree with you, and it's because Hansen is going to, I feel like, command double teams because he's so good offensively. Where Mara, I think you can still kind of single him up just because he's a lot of legs right now, and he kind of has trouble backing people down. Where Yang, it's no issue for him to put his shoulder in you and hit you with a jump hook. I saw him play against, there's a bigger guy in China. I don't know his measurements, but he looked like he was a lot bigger than Yang. And Yang hit him with a slow bump, and that second one he spun off baseline and reverse layup like Chris Webber used to do.
It might have been my boy Big Panda. They got a guy in China named Big Panda. He looks like a big panda bear. He's a legend out there.
Man, look, I'm high on Yang. I'm not afraid to say, like I said, he's not. And again, it's not a knock on Zach Edey, but Zach Edey is bigger than everybody in college basketball, and it's left shoulder hook, might be a right shoulder hook every now and again. Whereas Yang has like he's got the QB wristband full of moves that he's gonna use.
Up and unders, head fakes, spins. It sounds crazy, but the same like characteristics that people said about Nikola Jokic a while back. They wondered about could he play with the speed of the NBA, was he athletic enough, and so on. But everyone agreed that he was a great passer with touch and promise as a shooter. I think some of the same things that you're saying about Jokic is what I'm saying about Yang. Now, I'm not saying they're the same player, but I do think that Yang has the potential. Did I say, is it Yang?
Yeah, you said Yang. I got you.
I think he has the potential, and I'm being totally honest here, and I could be crazy, and this could come back to bite me down the line, but I think he does have the potential to be the type of Jokic, Sengun type player in the NBA. Again, he's only 18, skilled on the low post, gifted passer, and I think he moves better than a lot of 7-footers his size, especially at his weight. So Hansen, Yang.
And look, we started the propaganda. We started the agenda. Not to say that we started it, but it's starting to pick up more when we were talking about him on Twitter. And like I said, if you get a chance to watch his film, like you see he has a lot of game. There's no gimmicks. He's not 7'5", 300, and they just giving him the ball because he's bigger than everybody else. Like, he has every move on the block right now.
And he leads the Chinese Basketball Association in blocks as an 18-year-old. So Hansen Yang, remember the name. All right, when we return, we're going to talk about two more prospects. The next prospect I want to talk about is Malique Lewis, who's playing in the G League. Nobody's talking about Malik, but you're going to hear about him first here on the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast. Before we get into the second segment, I want to talk to you about eBay Motors, because eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball guru Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. So whether you're prepping for daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every single week we're going to provide you with players that are guaranteed to fit your roster. So let's see who Josh has picked out for us in this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. The first player, GG Jackson. Now, if you're a longtime listener, you know I'm a big fan of GG. And Memphis needs shot creation, and GG can do it. He has shown flashes, and he should be someone that managers can look to grab to see how Memphis deploys, because the Memphis Grizzlies need help. They need a lot of help because their roster has just been depleted by so many injuries. Another person to look at is Mason Plumlee. He's a new starter for at least 4 weeks with Ivica Zubac out. Plumlee can be a serviceable center for your fantasy team while we wait for Zubac to return. And then Aaron Nesmith. Nesmith's role should be a little bit more secure in Indiana with Bruce Brown gone, and his shooting and defense is important if you are a fantasy manager looking for those numbers. And then Marvin Bagley, who was traded to the Washington Wizards, and Daniel Gafford's concussion protocol, and Bagley has a shot at nice minutes on a rebuilding team that is just looking for talent. So hopefully those picks help. And Josh Lloyd's Locked On Fantasy Basketball. The goal is to help you and your fantasy team win a championship, and eBay Motors knows all about a championship, because they know a championship team is all about each player being the perfect fit, and that is the same with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts to choose from, you can make sure that your ride stays running smooth, whether you need brake kits, LED headlights, or roof rack, bumpers, whatever your car needs, eBay Motors has it. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or you get your money back. Plus, with these prices, you'll be very, very pleased that you chose eBay Motors. So keep your ride fresh and alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay's Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Locked On has launched the first ever 24 hours a day, 7 days a week streaming channel. It is Locked On Sports Today, so please subscribe, because Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, covering the top stories from the local experts plus the national shows. So go to Locked On Sports Today and subscribe to the first ever national 24 hours a day, 7 days a week streaming channel. All right, in the last segment, we talked about Hansen Yang, and while we were off, we talked about another comparison, Chris Kaman. James brought up Chris Kaman. If Hansen becomes Chris Kaman, that's great. He was an all-star, very gifted low post scorer, and he was always a guy that some people thought about, man, he could be a whole lot better if he cared. They said that he had moves, other interests and hunting and all that type of stuff that they think kind of was a priority for him. But let's talk about Malik Lewis, a guy that very few people, if anybody, is talking about. Malik is 6'8". He's from Trinidad and Tobago, not a place that is known for producing basketball players. Now, on the track and field, it's different. They get busy on the track, and they got wheels. But he played last year in Spain, saw a little bit of minutes in just gained some valuable experience, I should say, in the ACB, which is, in my opinion, the toughest domestic league outside of the United States. Malik is very intriguing, 6'8", long, athletic. Game is very simple. He's going to score on cuts to the rim, finishing in transition, knocking down open threes, and then he has shown the ability to get to the cup on straight line drives. His game fits the modern NBA as your low usage complementary player. I think he's going to be able to defend at a high level. Had a double-double in like his second or third game in the G League. He is not getting any buzz. Nobody's talking about him. He just had a great game against the G League Ignite a couple days ago. I think he had 13 points on 5 of 6 shooting, was 1 for 1 for 3, 6 rebounds. That game should be the game that really gets him on the map. I thought he had some good moments in the showcase, had a rough stretch at the end of December, but he's been playing well since January. So I think Malik Lewis is a draftable player. I have him on my big board 2.0. which is out now. And the first one was my first 14 picks, and then I've done 1 through 50. And I have Malik Lewis in my top 50 players. So what are your thoughts on Malik Lewis?
Like you said, man, there's a lot to like about him. You know how I feel about 3 and D guys, but he shows a little bit more at times. You can tell that the game is he's still trying to figure it out. Would you say he's 18 years old? 18
years old.
So
yeah.
he's 18. He's still trying to figure it out. But
he's 19. I think he just turned 19.
Just turned 19.
Yep.
Okay, so you pull up his numbers. We're at 13 and 6. I want to say 40% shooting from 3. Athletic, and he cuts, and he does a lot of good things. Like I said, he's still very, very, very much raw, but like the athleticism is there, the shooting potential is there. Like we talk about some of the French guys and their shooting ability, how Ricochet is shooting high 40s from 3. Tijon is burning it up. Well, Malik Lewis is shooting 40% from 3 in the G League, and he's shooting, at the NBA line. He's playing what it looks like is going to be his NBA role, and I feel like I have him as a second-round pick right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if a team, took a long look at him and saw his developable. Is developable a word? It is today.
In this case.
So you see his talent, what he's working with. Like I said, he's athletic, he's fluid. He shows signs of being able to handle the ball. He just doesn't have the reps right now. But there is a lot to work with.
One of the things I absolutely hate is the G League stats are so difficult. It's broken up into showcase and regular season, and it's easy to just pull up the first stats that come up and you see that he only played 9 games. But if you combine Malik's stats out of 25 games between the showcase and the regular season, he's averaging 8 points per game, shooting 50% from the floor, 33% from 3, which you'll take that for a young player. He is also grabbing 5.7 rebounds per game, averaging a little less than a block per game. He's doing this in only 22 minutes, but he's also putting up these numbers on a competitive team that is trying to compete. If I had a knock on the Ignite, is that I feel like because they're like 0-10 in the regular season, I think they're like 4. I don't even know the record. I know they're 0-10 in the regular season. They won like 4 games when Matas Buzelis came back, but they're not. I don't want to say they're not competitive, but they're getting blown out. And the thing about, I feel, with some of the Ignite players, if you know how to hoop on the Ignite, you can get your stats.
Explain that to me if I don't know what that means.
If you don't know how to hoop, I'm talking about if you're down by 20 and you're trying to get drafted, playing the right way probably doesn't help your stats. So if you score 8 points in the last quarter and a half and the team is down by 20 and you finish with 14, on paper it looks good. And I've seen it on social media where some of the guys on the Ignite, and I mean, I guess you can say they're all kind of guilty of it. You'll see like the tweets, 14 points, 18 points, yada, yada, yada. But if you watch the game, you see that those points came while the game was way out of hand. So I said all that to say this. Malik Lewis is putting up good numbers, but he's playing on a veteran team, which there are some benefits to having guys like Kenneth Faried on your team. I know Michael Carter-Williams is on that team. But he's doing it on a team that is competitive and winning. And I want to go to a game in Mexico City. I want to try to get there before the season is over. But that is like the only atmosphere outside of the Texas Legends where you actually see people in the crowd. And so that has something to do with it. But anyway, I just think Malik Lewis is highly underrated. He fits everything teams are looking for in a modern, low-usage wing. He's shooting the ball well. He cuts. And he's not like a 3-and-D guy. He is a guy that you would say 3D cuts and is a transition finisher. And I think he can impact the game if he's not making shots. That's why I'm really high on him.
I agree with you, man. I see the potential. I see the talent. The jump shot looks great, too, by the way. Like, just rotation, all that stuff. It looks great. And like I said, there are times when he puts the ball on the ground and he gets to the rim. And it's something that you can build upon.
Yeah, I got some numbers for you. All right. In the G League regular season, which started after the showcase, he's played 9 games. In the 27 minutes that he's playing, he's averaging 12 points. He's shooting 58.9% from the floor, 40% from 3 on 4 attempts per game. He's also grabbing 6 rebounds, averaging 1.6 assists. He's averaging 1.1 blocks and 0.9 steals. So if you add it up, he's averaging 2 stocks per game. And this is a 19-year-old in the G League. And despite these numbers, nobody is talking about Malik Lewis. But that's why you listen to the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast, because we're uncovering some prospects that aren't getting a lot of buzz. All right, in the next segment, we're going to talk about a guy that James is really high on. I heard about him coming into the season. I watched him a little bit, and he got off to a slow start, in my opinion, but then he's starting to turn the corner now, and James is going to give his opinion. Well, I'm going to give mine too. We're going to talk about Kyshawn George, who's one of James's favorites, so I'm going to give him the floor. Stay tuned. All right, before we get into the last and final segment, let's talk about Prize Picks, because Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. It is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America, and the easiest and the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It is just you against the numbers. You're not playing against pros, you're not playing against sharks. It's just you versus the numbers. All you have to do is pick 2 to 6 players and decide if they will beat the projected numbers. For example, some of the picks I'm seeing: Steph Curry for more than 29 points and Nikola Jokic for more than 10 rebounds, or Anthony Davis for more than 2 blocks and Damian Lillard for more than 4 3-pointers made in the game. You could do combo projections. For example, again, LeBron James and Travis Kelce, they have a combos league where you can pick 2 or more players from 2 totally different leagues. The best example I can think of is LeBron James and Travis Kelce combination of 10.5, combining 3-pointers made and receptions. And then what makes Prize Picks stand out is that if your players get hurt, they have an insurance policy. Your players can get rebooted. If a guy gets hurt in the first half and doesn't return in the second half, he automatically gets rebooted. Prize Picks has quick withdrawals. You get your money fast. Gameplay is easy, and they have a ridiculous selection of players and stat types. And that is why Prize Picks is the #1 daily fantasy sports app. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. It has to be in lowercase, but prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Once again, Prize Picks, daily fantasy made easy. All right, last segment. I think I might just put my feet up here.
Oh, yeah?
And just give you the floor.
Let me cook.
I'm gonna let you cook. Kyshawn George.
Hey, man, look.
Why are you so high on Kyshawn George?
Man, look, I don't know what took me so long, but, I find it's a lot of people. I got a lot going on, you know what I'm saying? But the name popped up, and I was like, let me go ahead and, take a look at the young fella, Kyshawn George. Now, complexion comparison, he looks like Anthony Black out there.
Sometimes.
And then when he gets his hair braided, he looks like, is it Delano Banton?
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah, he looks like he can be in that Ball family. Anthony Black. Anthony has a young brother named Beckham Black that looks just like him.
That little dude cold,
and
too.
then you got Jason Preston.
He
can look like them. Even though Preston's hair is like it's a little reddish or
no, it's a lot of reddish. Yeah.
But yeah, he fits into that complexion comparison. Light skin, long, skilled, can handle the ball. It's weird because when I first saw him play, I was like, dang, he moves like Anthony Black. Now, he's not the athlete of Anthony Black, but Anthony Black is like a sneaky athlete. Like, you don't know he's athletic. Like, it's weird. Like, he doesn't play fast. He's not quick. But, boy, it's like when he gets a launching pad, he'll finish above the rim. But he's a much, much better shooter than Anthony Black. Not the same level of defender either. But Keyshawn's got some skills. It's your floor, man. Go ahead.
Look, I'm really, really high on Kyshawn George. All right, I feel like he is as good of a shooter as anyone in this draft.
Like 42% from 3.
Yes,
he's 4 attempts a game.
Yes, and he's at 42% from 3. 4 attempts per game. This is in 20 minutes per game, right? And he shoots as well as anybody in the draft. But some of the French brothers who are getting the love as being shooters, they don't handle the ball nearly as well as he does.
He played in France last year. He's Swedish, but he played in France last year, made the move to the States. Actually, I did an episode Coming to America last week. He is probably the greatest beneficiary. hopefully I said that right,
There it is.
coming from Europe to the United States to play college ball this season. It has worked out for him. Some of the other guys it hasn't. But go ahead, I digress.
So look, 6'8". Again, I'm reading off of Basketball Reference, so I haven't seen him in person, but 6'8", 205. I get a lot of point forward vibes from him. So he does a lot of ball handling for Miami, which probably projects to have maybe 3 NBA players on their team, 3 guys that could possibly be drafted this year. But yeah, he's shooting 43% from 3. He handles the ball. He's got very, very good pace and pick and roll. Now, he's not a super athletic dude, but I mean, I've mentioned it before. Athleticism isn't the end all be all for me.
But he's skilled.
And I'm a big skill fan. And like I saw him, I think he is a top 20 player in this draft.
Okay.
I think we're moving guys out because again, I think his floor is really, really high because you know what? If nothing else, he can stand there. He's gonna shoot the ball at a high clip. I think he's shooting like 90% from the foul line. Limited attempts, but he can shoot the ball at a high clip. He can operate as your secondary ball handler, and he's got great size. I mean, you like numbers? People like numbers. Again, Miami, they got other guys, probably 3 draftable guys on that team, but his per 40 minutes, if you're a fan of that, 14 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, and almost a block. You'll take those numbers.
Yeah, I think I had him at. Ooh, I forgot. I had him in my top 50. I might have to move him up.
I think you're asleep. I don't feel like. So again, we'll talk about wings in this draft. All right. Does he shoot as well as Ricochet and Tijon? Possibly. We know he shoots better than Cody Williams. I think he has a better feel for the game as a ball handler than Cody Williams. I think Cody Williams is just driving straight line and he's getting to his spots. Again, that's not diss to Cody Williams, but I don't see Cody Williams operating in pick and roll like I see Kyshawn George being able to do.
And they both are in similar situations, if you think about it. KJ
Yes.
Simpson, Tristan da Silva for Colorado, those are NBA
Talents,
prospects,
yes.
NBA prospects. 1 or 2 can get drafted. Colorado could have 3 players drafted this year. Miami could have 3 players drafted this year with Wooga Poplar, Matthew Cleveland. So, you know what? How about this? We can do an episode. Let's, name it Tale of the Tape, where we compare prospects. Let's do Cody Williams versus Kyshawn George. One has the hype, one doesn't.
That's cool. We can do it. But like I said, I'm really high on Kyshawn George. I see the talent. If he showed me, I think he's like a 20-point game from breaking out and being on everybody's radar.
And it can happen in ACC play. Well, that wraps up this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast. Once again, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Thank you for supporting the podcast. Thank you for subscribing. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe, share, like, help us grow this channel. Once again, it's Rafael Barlowe with my brother James, and we are out.